Our epistle for this week from Ephesians chapter 2 is one of the central verses of Christian doctrine. It really helps clarify for us our understanding of God's grace and of good works. And so this has been a very important verse throughout Christian history, especially in the Reformation. So here we see clearly in Ephesians chapter 2, 8 and 9, that we are saved by grace through faith. And this is not of our own works. It's the work of God. It's the gift of God, so that we would not boast. We are not accountable by our works to earn favor with God. No, Paul teaches us in the book of Romans that God actually speaks us righteous. So it's not our good works that earn God's favor. God calls us favorable by his grace. That's God's work for us. We can think of that kind of in a vertical relationship where God is doing that work for us. Our good works don't really do anything for God. They don't earn God's favor. They don't earn God's grace or God's love. God is doing all of that for us. It's a vertical righteousness where we receive it passively. But then our good works, we respond to that grace that we've received with this kind of horizontal righteousness, an active righteousness that lives for the sake of our neighbor. This is where we do good works. So we are created to do good works for our neighbor in love, not so that we can earn God's favor, but so that we can share God's grace and God's love with all people. And this word, workmanship, you are God's workmanship, it's almost like a poem. You are God's poem. You are God's masterpiece. You are God's work of art, created in Christ Jesus to do these good works. So this then sets us free to be little evangelists, sharing the gospel, doing good works for our neighbor, knowing that we are saved by grace through faith, and that we get to proclaim that good news to the whole world through our words and our actions.